All right, let's go ahead and get started this evening. We'll go ahead and call the Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting for May 4th, 2021 to order with a roll call.
Tony Davis,
Here.
Jerry Harris,
Here.
Amber Beal is absent tonight. Joey Engel,
Here.
Ben Lewis is absent tonight. John Sessoms,
Here.
Devin Murphy,
Here.
Craig Langford,
Here.
and Jeff Seifarth.
And Jeff's here as well. Before we get started, do you have the slide, Nicole, on how to join the meeting or speak, or did you just, okay, perfect. So of course, we're still doing meetings virtually, and there's a couple different ways that's open for public comment. If you join the meeting virtually, then there's a raise the hand at the bottom of the screen. You can raise your hand whenever it's time, and then you can be recognized. If you called in by phone, which I think I saw one or two of them, then there's an opportunity to press *9 or *9, and then that'll raise your hand, and then we'll recognize you typically by the last three digits of your phone number is what we can see. So just wanted to cover that before we get started. And there's no minutes, no old business. So first thing this evening under new business is a public hearing. This is for variance 2101, lot 96 in Versailles, also known as the Marley property. Retaining wall encroachment 8 feet into the 15-foot side setback. 1505 Chateau Court. It is R1 and it's 2.44 acres. And so we'll go ahead and have the applicant just give us a brief overview, then we'll have a staff overview, and then we'll open it up to the public for any comments or questions. Is the applicant on to give us a brief overview?
Mr. Marley is here.
I am here. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, if you'll just, for the record, state your name and we know your address. So just go ahead and give us your name and then just give us a brief overview, if you will.
Yes, my name is Jared Marley, and this is going to be my family's personal residence. I'm actually a home builder, but we've been Centerton residents for almost 15 years. We're out right now in a rental home and hoping to get back up to our people as soon as possible. But what we've got going on is we've got a 2.44 acre lot that is 68 feet wide. It opens up. It's kind of like a pie shape until it hits 124 feet deep. At that point, it kicks out east and really opens up the property. But what we're running into is there's 25 feet of fall from the southeast corner of the lot to the northwest corner of the house. And so we are proposing to build some walls so that our house does not have that, we pull up and all you can see is roof line. And so the house will not encroach upon any of the existing setbacks. It will be within those setbacks. The only thing that we're looking to build outside of that is retaining walls to bring the house up a little bit. It does have a walkout basement, so we've done that as well. But just with the steepness of the lot and the narrowness of the lot in the beginning, we really had to push that house further back in the lot to get it to kind of fit in there properly.
All right, perfect. I appreciate it. Let me see here from staff. Donna, you're up first tonight, even though you had a long night. So do you want to go ahead and give us a staff overview?
Let me unmute myself. So this application is also going to be coming up later in the PC meeting with a concurrent vacation request, which is unfortunately for Mr. Marley, the last item on the agenda. So he's first and last. This is in the Versailles subdivision, which they submitted when Versailles was approved, all of the building setbacks were platted as utility and drainage easements, which is why the concurrent vacation easement is required. The request is for an 8-foot reduction in the building setbacks on the side from 15 foot to 7 foot. The zoning is R1, low density residential. So following the public hearing, the Board of Zoning Adjustments is asked to evaluate each variance on its own merits. There are 5 different elements for findings in fact. Traditionally, 4 or 5 elements need to be satisfied. Per the building department, a Arkansas licensed engineer design for the retaining walls will need to be submitted at the time of the building submittal. So we did receive a plan, which was previously on the screen. As some of these retaining walls are quite large. We've got a couple where they're 10, 11 feet tall. So that is something to note. Specifically in regards to the finding of fact, the first one is preservation of intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. Mr. Marley has stated the intent is to keep the residents within the existing setbacks. The only structure that will be constructed in the space is the retaining walls, and the walls allow for the sides of the home required by the Versailles covenants to be built without having the house to be constructed in a manner that has only the roof visible from the street. We find that allowing low retaining walls on the building setbacks on a steep slope is consistent with the intent of the zoning code. Item number 2, exceptional circumstances. That exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual circumstances or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. Mr. Marley's response is that the lot is narrow at the front at 68 feet, which is uncommon in Versailles except for the cul-de-sac lots. And the lots does not open up until about 124 foot back. And the lot slopes roughly 25 feet from the southeast corner of the lot until the southwest corner of the house, and then slopes almost 80 foot to the bottom. So staff has noted that steep slopes in the middle of the lot and a narrow lot width at the cul-de-sac where the lot is flatter do limit the buildable area of the lot. Item C is hardship, not grounds for variance. That the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant, and that no variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. Mr. Marley's response is that the existing setbacks, covenants, and lot issues do not reasonably allow for the home to be constructed in a manner that is suitable with the excellence displayed in the Versailles neighborhood. Staff noted that the existing topography of the lot does not result from Mr. Marley's intended or proposed actions, and the retaining walls include portions that are 10 feet in height, and eliminating these would create a burden on the homeowner. Granting the variance would not be granting a variance solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. And item 4, preservation of property rights. Literal interpretation of these provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Mr. Marley's response is that he has spent countless hours working to find a way to make this property a place that would complement the existing properties in the Versailles neighborhood. The inability to put the walls puts this property at a distinct disadvantage to the intent of the neighborhood. beautiful homes on sprawling estate lots. And staff has noted parcels within the Versailles neighborhood were subdivided along topographic features, resulting in parcels of varying shapes and sizes. I did include a small graph in your exhibit. Lot 96 as at the end of a cul-de-sac with a narrow lot width at the right-of-way. And because lot 96 is tucked between two valleys at the east and west property lines and a stream on the north side of the property where it is flat, the ability to grade the lot is limited because it must meet those grades at the property lines. Item E, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose or spirit of this chapter or the public interest. Mr. Marley's response is that the walls will not be an eyesore as the lot is in the back of a cul-de-sac. In addition, the adjoining properties are not going to have direct sight lines to the limited walls due to the wooded nature of the Versailles neighborhood. We've noted that as proposed, the house will maintain the 15-foot building setbacks with the retaining walls approximately 7 foot from the adjacent property lines. And that we find that the approving the variance would not create a substantial detriment. We do propose that in the event the variance is approved, excuse me, the BZA needs to state any conditions of approval. So for PC determination, since the building setbacks are being reduced, staff recommends a condition be included that the footprint of the residence should maintain the 15-foot side back with the variance applying to the retaining walls only. And there is a suggested motion included in the packet. We did receive a comment from building regarding the walls needing to be per engineering. And we noted a comment from Centerton Utilities stating that he has no issue with this, given that the side setback is 7 feet. If there are any questions, please let me know.
All right, thank you, Donna. Let's go ahead and open it up to the public. So with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for variance 2101.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
This is John. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, as we stated at the beginning, if you'd like to comment or have a question in regards to this variance, there's two ways to do that. You can either raise your hand, which I believe is at the bottom of your screen, or you can do *9 if you called in, and then we can recognize you. We do ask as a courtesy around a 3-minute time period, max is what we normally ask for. And then we ask that you state your name and your address for the record. So with that being said, is there anyone that wishes to speak in regards to variance 2101, lot 96 in Versailles? Don, I don't know if you're looking or Diane.
I only saw Jared's hand.
Yes, this is Diane, and I don't see any other hands raised.
And Jared,
Jared.
you're fine, Jared.
Okay.
We did get an email about this, but it was just a request for information and not really a comment.
Okay. We'll
And
do a, go ahead.
Jared doesn't have
I'm
to
sorry.
hold his hand up till the end of the meeting.
You'll be tired at the end, believe me. We'll
We
do that.
also, today, while Donna was out of the office, we did receive a response from one of the adjacent property owners who received the notification form. And he noted that with the neighborhood almost full and only odd lots left, I don't see this as an issue. He's the next street over, so it doesn't bother him. So that's kind of the gist of his response.
Okay,
Just as a note.
perfect. Thank you. We'll do a second call for anyone from the public that wishes to speak.
There are no additional hands raised.
And we'll do a third and final call.
No additional hands.
And with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Craig. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Joey, I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, before we go through the fact finding that we need to go through, are there any questions or concerns from any of the commissioners? All right, let's go ahead and get started then. And again, I think the note on the retaining wall design with the licensed engineer, just restating it. But the first fact, preservation of intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. And I'm okay with this. I think the intent there is still to build a house, within the, the 15 feet, if you will, given that. So does anybody disagree with that? All right, the next one, exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under the consideration. And I do agree, that this lot, based on what I can see here from the design, the slope and everything, that it is somewhat unique in the fact that he, wants to, make sure the house is visible, if you will. And I think this just kind of shores that up. And the fact that the house is going to be within that, outside of the 15 feet. So I think this one's okay as well. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. The next one, hardship, not grounds for variance, that the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. And I don't believe that he's doing it for an economic gain or loss. I think that he's truly trying to find a solution here. Does anybody disagree with that? All right. The preservation of the property rights, that literal interpretation of this provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Again, I think he is trying to, preserve the intent of the fact he wants to build a lot. And so I would agree that with the unusual shape and then the slope, that this one's okay. Does anybody disagree with that one? Okay. And the last one, the absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest. And again, I don't think the intent is to build walls that are eyesores. I think that he's truly trying to, build something here that would be, represent the neighborhood. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? All right, just to note that the variance would be just for the wall, that it would not be for the structure, and the fact that the building department is asking for an engineer to present them the plan. with that, I would entertain a motion for variance 2101. There is some suggested language in our packet.
And Jeff, if I could just clarify one other point, that not all retaining walls would be in the realm of needing a variance and vacation. Staff kind of discussed that because it's an engineered wall, it kind of kicks it into the realm of being a more permanent structure. And that's why you guys are seeing it. But if it's, a shorter retaining wall for landscaping, that type of thing, it wouldn't be before you tonight, just to clarify that.
That answered my question.
There you go.
All right, thanks, Nicole. And again, if there's no other questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion.
This is Joey. I move to grant the request by Jared Marley for up to an 8-foot reduction to the 15-foot building setback for the R1 low density residential zone for Versailles subdivision, lot 96.
John, I'll
Jerry,
second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Todd, I believe you're still with us. If you'll do a roll call vote for me.
Is there anything else we wanted to add to that motion as far as the, you want me just to cover it in your summary, Mr. Chairman?
Let's go ahead and add the engineering. And let's see what else was there and then it would just apply to the wall, if you will, not to the structure.
Okay.
I'd also like to mention that this applies to the footing as well, not just the face of the wall.
Okay. So with that, we still have a motion and we have a second. Todd, if you'll do a roll call for me.
Sure. Tony Davis,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
and Jeff Seifert.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you, Jared. You will have to stick it out with us tonight. So we'll see you towards the end of the planning commission meeting as well. Just announcement wise, our next BZA meeting will be 5/18, in which we'll have some minutes to approve. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Zoning Adjustments.
This is Jerry, I make a motion to adjourn.
Tony, I second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, guys. Now we'll go ahead and switch over and call the Centerton Planning Commission meeting for May 4th of 2021 to order with a roll call.
Tony Davis,
Here.
Jerry Harris,
Here.
Amber Beal is absent, Joey Engel,
Here.
Ben Lewis is absent, John Sessoms,
Here.
Devin Murphy,
Here.
Craig Langford,
Here.
and Jeff Seifert.
And Jeff's here as well. The first thing I'd just like to point out, I believe, Nicole, you have your slide that you normally put up now that we're over in the Planning Commission meeting. Just the fact that if you join virtually for the open public commentary, you can press the raise the hand button and we can recognize you. If you join by phone, *9*9, we'll raise your hand and then you can be recognized as well. We typically see the last 3 digits of your phone number, and we do ask that you state your name, address, and then kind of a 3-minute, kind of max, if you will, in regards to comments, just as a courtesy to the other folks. First on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes of our meeting from 4/20/21.
This is John. I'll motion to approve the minutes from 4/20/21. Excuse me. 4/20/21.
Joey. This is Joey, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, we also, next on the agenda is the ratification of administrative approvals, of which there are three. The Walden's Plumbing, the Howard Altman Consulting, and the three-piece gaming. Were there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners in regards to the approvals? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the ratifications.
This is
This is
Craig. I'll make a
Joey.
motion to approve the ratification of administrative approvals.
This is Joey. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you guys. Under old business, I see it's tentative, the subdivision 2103, the Silverleaf subdivision adjacent street improvement agreement. This is at Bush Road and Wade Drive. Nicole, are we moving forward with this or?
They are not quite ready, so it will be moved to the next agenda, if that is your pleasure.
So would you like us to table it?
Yeah, you probably should, since it is on the agenda.
Okay.
You can go ahead and do that.
I would entertain a motion to table subdivision 2103, the Silverleaf subdivision adjacent street improvement agreement.
This is John, I'll motion to table subdivision 2103 Silverleaf subdivision.
Tony, I second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Now we're going to move on to new business. And the first new business this evening is the rezone 2111, the Big Sky Phase 2 LLC. This is a A1 to R2 single family. It's approximately 60 acres at 11871 Walters Road. And as we've done on the previous, we'll go ahead and open it up to the applicant to give us an overview. We'll have a staff overview, and then we'll open it up to the public for a public hearing. Is the applicant on to give us an overview? Gavin, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Gavin, you just want to give us a brief overview of what you guys are looking to do out there?
So basically, it is a continuation of phase 1 that we've already successfully completed. We'll only have about 2 lots left to build out this summer. And the property to the south of phase 1 is contiguous. And again, we'll have connectivity to phase 1 and then another entrance off of Walters Road, and continue basically the same size of lots and the same style of home construction.
All right. Thank you, Gavin. Donna, I believe this is you as well. Do you want to give us a stat? I'm sorry, this is Diane. Diane, do you want to give us an overview?
Yes, I said Donna gets a reprieve momentarily because it's most of her projects tonight. As Gavin stated, this is going to be, this is property that is just to the south of the current Big Sky subdivision. It will connect up with Bullock Road and also Walters Road. There is a portion on the very eastern side, kind of in the funny little jog over here, that was just annexed to the city of Centerton. It had previously been in the in Benton County, but it has, the annexation has been approved. As he stated, his immediate intentions are to develop Big Sky Phase 2. And it is going to be medium density, single family residential, which is the same as Big Sky and also Orchard Park. My brain lapsed for a minute there. Orchard Park here to the east.
Yep.
I have so many things floating around in my brain. So that is definitely compatible with what's existing. And there is a one here to the north that you guys will have a conditional use permit on here this evening also. Of course, Walters Road has been paved all the way through, or if it's not, it's soon to be paved all the way from the very southern end all the way up to Highway 72. It is a minor collector on the master street plan. And so with the subdivision, we would ask for, right of way and road improvements at that time. And also Bullock Road that exists currently is designated a minor collector also, so the same thing, but also on our master street plan. And I think I have a visual of that. There we go. There is a proposed minor arterial connection that will run on the north side of this property to make a better connection to Highway 72, because Galen Stables is right about up in here. And that would be a minor arterial. And then Walters and Bullock are minor collectors or major collectors. And nope, minor collectors. I just need to go home. I can't even blame it on what Donna had today.
It is a major collector.
Major
I think
collector.
The wrong section's in here, but you
Okay.
note it as a major collector.
It will also continue on southward on the west side of this property also. Those are all things that would be looked at along with the subdivision development plans. The surrounding zoning, as I said, those were pretty much R2 single family also. And on our land use plan, the western parcels are designated as low density residential, which is pretty compatible with what we have as far as our current R2 or even R1. And then the eastern side, the ones directly south of Big Sky, are low medium density residential. So the requested zoning may be considered consistent with the current land use plan designations. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. And one day I'll get all my streets straight.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate it. Any
Oh,
questions?
and we did have one public comment. I'm sorry. I think it was in Dropbox at one point in time. We only had one comment that we received via email that they're interested in a delay. But again, this is just a rezone currently because the current property owners are wanting to start a homeowners association. So that is the one reason they like a delay. So that the property ownership will change.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a way to receive that comment? Because I was not aware of that at all.
Yes, I can forward that to you, Gavin.
Okay, that'd be great.
No problem.
And just so the council members are clear, the HOA is scheduled to be, or was scheduled to be voted on as a board once there was 75% occupancy of the subdivision. However, there is a provision in those covenants that states if the developer decides to add and increase the size of the development or add phases in this case, then the 75% obviously would continue until the developer has completed those other extra phases and 75% occupancy of those things. So I think that was the reason for maybe the delay, but there has been a file, or we have filed with the court, the county courthouse, about the provision to state that the developer intends to continue phases 2 and 3, so that will be attached to the currently filed and recorded covenants and restrictions. That's what the language, that's probably what the one person is not clear about.
Okay, thanks, Gavin.
Mm-hmm.
Before we open it to the public, are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? All right, then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for rezone 2111 for the Big Sky Phase 2.
This is John. I'll motion to open a public hearing for rezone 2111 Big Sky Phase 2.
This is Tony, I second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, at this time, it is open to the public for anyone that wishes to comment, whether that's a comment or a question for the rezone 2111 for the Big Sky Phase 2. Again, it's A1 to R2 single family. If you join virtually, you can press the raise the hand, or if you join by phone, you can do *9. And so with that, Diane, do we have anyone that wishes to speak?
There are currently no hands raised.
Okay.
Oh, we have one hand raised so far. It is a Michael. Michael, I'm not going to butcher your last name.
Hey, Michael, do you want to go ahead and just give us your name and your address and then state your question or comment? Michael, are you there? Michael, if you're there, will you, you may have to unmute, or then, you know, just if you had a question or a comment, if you could let us know.
It's showing that he's not muted, so I don't know if there's an audio issue on his end or not. Oh, he just muted himself. Shall we go on to another person? Maybe he might be on a phone.
Okay.
We do have a hand raise of a phone number that ends in 668.
All right. Phone number ending in 668. Did you have a question or a comment in regards to the rezone?
Oh, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Shimanan Majagi, and we own 12 acres on the southeast of the proposed plant. And, you know, what we have seen in last 30 years in Centerton is growth, and growth is good, and we support the growth. But we just want the council to make sure that, you know, review the detailed plan before they approve it. They need to make sure that all the easements and retention ponds are on the developer's properties. Now, we have put 30 years of our savings in buying this land, and we want the city to make sure that, you know, any new developments coming around that, it does not turn our land into a giant pond. You know, we have seen prior to that, you know, the road was built on the Walters Road and first, and then they asked for the easement, and then they asked for the more easement for moving the rainwater. And, you know, we gave the easement, but no work has been done on channeling the water on that side. So I request the council that, you know, you review the detailed plan and approve, before you approve it, all the easements and the retention ponds are on the property of the developer. And also I want to make sure that, you know, you look into a detailed plan, because what we have seen in previously that every time a plan is approved and it comes back for the hearing few times, because, you know, the developers want to make the changes because the new easements or something. So if everything is included in before you approve it, you know, we can have fewer hearings. Thank you. That's my comment.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. What I would tell you is that that yes, they are reviewed. All the plans are reviewed, not only by staff, but they're also reviewed by an engineer, and they're all approved before any construction can begin on the property. So, but duly noted. And but those are things that our staff goes through before it comes back to us in a preliminary plat, and also we look at all the documents before it's final platted as well.
Hey, Jeff, can you get him to spell his name and address for us?
Yeah, if you're still on, will you spell your name out and your address for us, please?
Yeah, first name is Shiv, S-H-I-V, and last name Majagi, M-A-J-A-G-I. And my home address is 1724 South 41st Street, Rogers, 72758.
Thank you. All right, Diane, is Michael still have his hand up?
Yes, he does still have have his hand up. Michael, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right.
There we go.
Okay, I'm getting an echo here. I'm sorry.
You might have to turn the volume down just a little bit, Michael, if you can. Hope we didn't lose you, Michael.
Well, it looks like he muted himself.
Yeah, Michael, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right. Can you give us your address, Michael, before you jump in and get started?
Sure. It's 3721 Whitefish Street.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did
And
you
I
have
have
a
one question about access to phase 2. Is there going to be a cut through from phase 1 into phase 2, or is the access going to be strictly from Walters Road?
I don't know that we have seen that yet. And again, this evening, what we are considering is the actual use of the land, not necessarily the plan in regards to how they're going to access or anything like that. So I haven't actually seen that. And again, I don't know that it would, sway us one way or the other. We simply look at what they're trying to do with the intended land. And I don't know if Gavin is on the line. I'll give him an opportunity to share if he's thought about it, but it's not anything that he has to answer this evening.
Yes, the current plans, we are intending on having a second access due to the length of the entrance off of Walters Road for fire protection. There will be a second entrance that comes in off of Bighorn Street.
Thank you, Gavin.
Okay. There wouldn't be, so Bighorn, and then you would turn south off of, say, the end of Beartooth, or?
No, it'll be closer to the detention area. Future plans, there will be another connection and connectivity over to Bullock Road, but that'll be in phase 3.
Yeah, the thing is, this is new to me as a current owner, and when we purchased here, there was nothing to indicate that this would be that would be a future access, or even potential future access to phase 2 or any phase. And my concern is the increased traffic that would come in off of 72 down Beartooth, and you'd have to make a tight turn there, or even coming down Whitefish Street. I don't know. This isn't, and perhaps we can address this at a later date, but this is nothing that was in the plat plan that I saw when we purchased here.
Or wouldn't have been, because when you purchased here, we hadn't even purchased the property for phases 2 and 3. So there wouldn't have been no even concept plan for that particular piece of property. That has all occurred within the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay, so I don't see why that should even affect the current owners in phase 1, what you plan to do in phase 2. If it wasn't even a concept, then yeah, we had no clue, no idea that this was in the works. And I would just like to state, I'd be opposed to anything like that coming in through phase 1 into phase 2, just because of the safety concern, increased traffic, and things like that.
All right, thanks, Michael. Any other questions or comments? Anything else, Michael?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Diane, anyone else that has their hand raised or wishes to speak?
Yes, we have one additional person with their hand raised. It is a phone number ending in 217.
All right, phone number in 217. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name's Kevin Freeman, 1272 Cutbirth Lane, Centerton. I believe my question was answered. I own property on Bullock, and I was just inquiring about, I was going to ask where the access would be in relation to Bullock, but as I understand it, that's phase 3.
I think that's what Gavin had stated, yes, for future phase.
Correct. And that is based on the city's current master street plan. So that connection over to Bullock through phase 3 is based on what the city has bigger plans for.
Okay. And is that, would that be right at the corner, at the sharp corner on Bullock?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, these are all engineering and design questions that we haven't got to over that far yet.
Okay. I appreciate it. That's all.
Yeah, and Kevin, I would just say if you haven't seen the master street plan, it is posted at City Hall. I don't know if you ever get by there, but they do have, I believe, both the land use plan and the street map on the board down there. So feel free to stop and take a look, or you can reach out to staff and they could share it with you as well.
Okay. Do we know in these improvements on Bullock, I believe it might have been mentioned earlier, but I don't fully understand some of the terms. Is Bullock planned to be paved in these additions?
I don't know, Nicole, do you want to, I mean, because I don't think Rick joined us tonight.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Hey, Rick, do you want to answer that for us?
The main way that we depend on improvements in areas like this is with cooperation and development with the subdivisions. We have no plans right now for developing this, but as this develops, the developer will be responsible for half street improvements at the least, and we would try to make improvements reaching to the needs of today and trying to fulfill the master street plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, can you state your address one more time for us, just so we have it for the record? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. 12172 Cutbirth Lane, Centerton.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
I do not see any additional hands raised.
We will do a second call then for anyone that wishes to speak on rezone 2111.
See no additional hands raised.
And we'll do a third and final call.
Only the number that ended in 217, but I believe that was Kevin who spoke a moment ago.
It was, yes.
Okay. Other than that, there are no additional hands.
All right. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Tony, a second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for rezone 2111. Is anyone opposed? All right, let's go through our considerations. Again, this is A1 to R2 single family, 11871 Walters Road. The 5 things we're asked to consider. The first one is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? If not, why? And I believe that it is consistent. Does anybody disagree with that? All right, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And I do believe that this one is, being the single-family residential, similar zoning to, identical zoning to what it's going to be adjoining. Does anybody disagree with that? Would all the permitted uses in this new zone be compatible in this location and surrounding areas? I believe since it's single-family, that it is. Does anybody disagree with that? Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other properties similar in this area? And I believe that it doesn't provide necessarily one benefit that we wouldn't consider. Does anybody disagree with that? And if the public is opposed, why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion-based? Does any factual information presented apply to the rezoning situation? And again, just, access and traffic, which we haven't seen necessarily planned yet. Shiv asking for some details in regard, making sure that we look at the details, which I shared we do, both from a staff and an engineer perspective. And then, of course, Kevin had a question too about Bullock. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain a motion for the rezone 2111 Big Sky Phase 2, A1 to R2 single family.
This, Jerry, I make a motion to rezone 21-11 Big Sky from A1 to R2 single family.
This is Joey. I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Bill, if you'll do a roll call vote for me.
Yes, I sure will. Craig Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
and Jeff Safarth.
Jeff's a yes as well. Thank you, Gavin. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is rezone 2112 KHM2S2 Homes LLC from A1 to R2 and C3, 9.98 acres at 1425 North Main Street. Is the applicant here? Jeff, are you with us to give us an overview this evening?
Hey,
Mr. Morali is.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
and Jeff Bates. So they're both here.
yeah. So I'm going to speak, and Jeff is going to add if I'm missing anything. So we initially planned when we bought this one to do the duplexes, and we came to Planning Commission. We heard loud and clear from the neighbors as well as the city that what they really would like to have it there. So we went back to drawing board and see what we can do to make anything reasonably make it happen in that land use. So we came back with a proposal where this hope will get approval is making the back 6 acres as R2 zoning, which is compatible to the neighborhood houses, and front 4 acres as a C3 neighborhood, which is in the city master plan. And so coming up with this proposal, we're building a single family homes in the back and making it a C3 commercial as per city's master use plan. So that's how we're proposing. Jeff, you want to add anything else?
No, you pretty much covered it. He's just trying to make everyone happy and do single family homes in the rear, and then stay with a future zoning with commercial in the front. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Morali. Thanks, Jeff. Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Sure. So the request is for C3 and R2 single family. It is for about 10 acres. As they said, they've previously come with this request. You've actually seen it twice. The first was on 12/15/2020. That request was for A1 to residential townhouse multifamily. It was withdrawn during the PC meeting with staff report noting it was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. It was then brought back again and heard on February 2nd, where it was again withdrawn. That request was for residential townhouse duplex and central business district, where it was revised to neighborhood commercial at the meeting. This request is for the R2 single family and for A1 this request is for the R2 single family and neighborhood commercial. So R2 single family is intended for residential neighborhoods. I've noted in your packet the requirements for that. R2 single family has a typical max density of 3 to 5 units per acre, which is what the adjacent neighborhoods are. Neighborhood commercial is primarily for convenient shopping, services, barber and beauty shops, that sort of thing. It is what the commercial to the south is. Main Street is a minor arterial with a 90-foot right-of-way on the approved master street plan. There is A1 to the north and the south with surrounding the neighborhood commercial at the corner of Townview, Seba, and Main Street at that intersection. Tuscany is built at approximately 2 units an acre, while Forest Park is 3 to 4. The current use of the parcel includes a residential structure and a pole shed. The requested zoning to medium density single family residential may be considered compatible with the adjacent zoning and uses. And the requested zoning to C3 may also be considered compatible because of the proximity to the adjacent minor arterial and the existing commercial zoning to the south. On the adopted land use plan, these 2 parcels are included in the northern end of the commercial corridor along the western side of Main Street. In the comprehensive plan, this area is described as including larger neighborhood commercial development, which due to its size has the ability to serve the entire northern half of the city rather than just adjacent residences. Capacity and scale necessitate stronger design standards to ensure compatibility with neighboring residential. The adopted land use plan in adjacent residential areas is low medium residential, which is 3 to 7 units an acre. So the requested zoning to R2 may not be considered consistent because it is not commercial. It's a less intensive use that does not meet the intent of the comprehensive plan. The requested zoning to neighborhood commercial may be considered consistent. I've also included a couple of implementation items regarding this rezone's intent, such as locating new residential development adjacent to existing developments. There is an item in the comprehensive plan specifically relating to developing this area as a commercial area. If you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, thanks, Donna. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we open it up to the public? If not, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for rezone 2112.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Sorry, John.
This is John. I'll second.
Motion in a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, Diane, Donna, we'll go ahead and open up to the public. Again, if you join virtually, you can raise your hand at the bottom, or if you call them by phone, you can do *9 and you can be recognized, typically the last 3 digits of your number. And again, just as a reminder, as a courtesy, kind of a 3-minute time period, if you will. So with that, Diane, I'll open it up to the public.
Yes, we have a attendee named Greg Harris that would like to speak.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, hello, this is Greg Harris, 1420 Amore Lane. I'm the Vice President of Tuscany POA, and I'm sure you've gotten used to me talking about this particular parcel now. But for one, I would actually like to I'm really appreciative that the landowner came and pitched the proposal. And furthermore, that he's actually, been listening to what we as the residents have been discussing, is that the high density housing portion of this being incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. And I, for one, very grateful that the proposal he's come back with today has an R2 neighborhood. I think most of the residents of Tuscany would absolutely love it if this entire parcel was made R2, but we understand that the city has its needs as well. I have a question though. It says on that zoning map there, it's showing C3. And then on is it correct that the land is currently slated for C2?
The land use plan is C2, yes. So
okay.
The C3 would technically be a little bit less intensive use, and I think the staff will correct me if I'm incorrect in that.
And so okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. The land use plan just calls for commercial in this area and then goes into detail that this is a neighborhood serving commercial. So the neighborhood commercial is compatible with the land use plan designation.
And I think that's probably the crux of, the crux of my concerns would not be able to be met in this meeting, in that, downgrading it or setting it as a C3. We certainly don't need fast food restaurants in this neighborhood and things like that would be available in some cases of a C3. But, and I understand that that's certainly not part of this meeting and zoning, but whether or not that use of C3 is consistent, I certainly don't have the expertise to know that and how much, but this side of town certainly does need commercial space. And I appreciate that the landowner has taken in consideration the adjoining communities and proposed an R2. I think most everyone that I've talked to is absolutely okay with the R2 there. But again, is it going to be compatible with what the city's long-term needs are? I certainly can't answer that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Diane, anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, we do have a Carmen Avogaro.
Hey, Carmen.
Oh.
Carmen, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could just give us your name and address, and then if you have a question or a comment.
Yes, I'm Carmen Avogaro. I'm 1341 Monterey Drive, Tuscany Subdivision. I'm the treasurer of the POA. So first of all, obviously, I want to thank you for your time. But I would like to initially express my concern, mainly in the sense of all the ever-changing requests that we have had for this zoning. It seems that to me that, it's mostly trying to come up with something that will stick, because every time that we have had 3 attempts for this. This is, I believe, the 4th one. And it seems like a reasonable one. However, for the same reason, I'm concerned about what in that, if we're going to make it a C3, what type of business are we attracting to that area? Obviously, I wouldn't care to have a pawn shop on the back of my wall. So is that a thing that is approved later in terms of who can actually have a business in the commercial side? Or is once it's C3, as long as the business qualified to C3, it will be approved?
I would say as long as the business qualifies under the C3 schedule of uses, then they would be allowed to participate there. If it was anything other than that, then they would need to ask for some sort of conditional use.
So I guess that, like I said, if it was slated to be a C2, which is a more restrictive use, and now we want to make it a C3, what will stop from a store or something that really not the most desirable, business to have? Like I said, I'm very affected because it's right there in the back of my fence. So that's the main concern I have.
Okay.
If I may say, the C3 is the neighborhood commercial, which is the least intensive commercial use. And several of the items that are more intensive would require a conditional use permit, which would be something that would have to come back to Planning Commission for specific approval. And at that point, Planning Commission could put more intensive requirements on it if it was approved, such as screening or hours or items like that.
So what will be required to, for this to actually, instead of be approved as a C3, to be approved as a C2? Like I said, that is the main concern.
C2 is highway commercial. So that is our most intensive commercial use.
Yeah, so think about Highway 102, where, it's definitely more commercialized, if you will, instead of being like a neighborhood commercial. So kind of think about it that way. And that's the reason that the neighborhood commercial potentially fits better here versus a more intensive C2.
So
C2 would allow things like car lots, theaters, most anything of our uses would be allowed. Even some more industrial type uses would be allowed in the C2. C3 is much more restrictive.
Okay. So it, like a liquor store, wouldn't be there.
I don't know without going through the entire list as far as what's exactly in there, because it's a very extensive list that we have broken out by C1, C2, and C3.
Like I said, I appreciate the owner, changing and trying to listen to our concerns, but at the same time, it concerns me just because what exactly will be allowed to have a business on my, the other side of my fence.
Okay. Thank you, Carmen. And again, that list is available. It is a public record. If it's something that you'd want to, receive from staff, feel free to reach out to them.
But would that mean that, you guys are going to be approving it, and once it's approved, it's changed, so we wouldn't have any other option?
That is correct, but also understand that if you look at the land use plan, this area was designated as commercial as far as the land use plan as well.
So even though it is set up as a A1, you're saying that also the plan was to be a commercial?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's hope
Yeah,
for the best, but
Yeah,
it's
if you
good.
look, Carmen, if you look on the right-hand side at the land use plan, that whole strip along Main Street was going to be, for our land use plan is zone commercial. It's
Okay.
just what kind of commercial you put there is what they're asking for.
Right, and I guess that's my main concern, John, that, what exactly am I going to find out that is being placed there? And not having any option, whereas now being an A1, I know that that's what they're limited to. And, and I remember from the first meeting, they said, once this changed, we're stuck with that decision, so.
That's
Carmen,
correct.
out of all the commercial options, C1, C2, or C3 neighborhood commercial is the most fitting to be adjacent to residential uses.
Okay, let's hope that it turns out okay. Otherwise, have to look for a different place. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carmen. Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
I do not see any additional hands raised. Greg, did you have anything else to say? Your hand is still
Yes.
raised. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm still on. Okay. Just real quick, so that land is designated for what's the comment in the land use plan for the strictest development standards? I don't recall what, what board and how is that enforced? Does that come through the planning commission? How do you enforce that part of the land use plan that requires the strictest design standards?
Well, it's not necessarily design standards. So the C1, C2, and C3 have what we call a schedule of uses. And so there's a large spreadsheet that really for all of our designation, there's a spreadsheet, if you will, and it designates uses, if you will, that are either allowed based on the zoning or some require a conditional use permit. And so if they're allowable in the zoning, in this case, C3, the neighborhood commercial, then all the other, the design standards are handled by staff and they're handled by our engineer.
That's what I'm asking about, because Section 5 actually states in the land use plan that it necessitates stronger design standards. And I want to understand what entity of our government, city government, necessitates and sets that stronger design standards that's stipulated in the land use plan.
I would say the staff, based on the guidelines that we have created and developed, the staff works with the developer to enforce the standards that are in place.
Okay. And then if that, I presume that during whatever portion of that time that comes to the public as well.
Whenever they develop, we do ask that they place a sign. It's not required. We ask that they place a sign noting that there will be a development meeting, if you will, and then that would open it up to allow for the public.
Okay, so there's no public oversight built into that portion of the city land use plan.
That is correct.
Okay. Sorry, that's all I had.
Okay. And I don't know if I cut Nicole or Diane. I don't know if you guys had something else to add in regards to that or not. Okay. Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
I do not see any additional hands.
So we will do a second call for anyone that wishes to speak on rezone 2112.
There are no additional hands.
And we'll do a third and final call for rezone 2112.
There does not seem to be anyone else that wishes to speak.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for rezone 2112.
This is Craig. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Joey, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, let's go. Well, before we get started, are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners?
I had one question, and Jeff, and this, I know this is way preliminary. We're not at the plotting or development phase or anything like that, but I guess I could ask the developer, how would we plan to actually access the R2? There's no road there. And I know if you look north and south, it's currently A1, but those are actually someone's home. There's a vineyard to the south, and then there's homes to the north. So would you access the R2 neighborhood through the commercial? Is that, so you have to go through the commercial to get to the neighborhood is what I'm asking.
Jeff or Morale, did y'all get that far yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a initial plans, and there are going to be two roads. It's going to cut through commercial and go around and come back. So that's what we're looking at. At least the initial plan looks like, yes. So there's going to be a small commercial on the left and small commercial on the right, and there's going to be a big commercial strip in the middle. There's going to be entrance between the commercials. It goes around and comes back.
Yeah, that would help. I know one of the comments from earlier meetings, there was some concern about entrance being very close to that very sharp and dangerous turn. But if you are putting that entrance, with your neighborhood traffic further down towards the south end of that would definitely fit. I just wanted to say, just make sure that was being considered, that you don't have very much access to that R2 area other than right along Main Street, and the obvious hazards that come with the traffic on Main Street.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, John.
We'll definitely consider that when we get to the design part.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. All right. Let's go ahead and go through the considerations that we need to go through. And the first one is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? If not, why? I actually kind of like this transition. I know that we have it designated as neighborhood commercial. There's also a large parcel, of course, that's to the south. And then, of course, the parcel where the, batting baseball, if you will, exists today. So I think this is actually a relatively, good plan, if you will, with the commercial up front, neighborhood commercial up front, some residential in the back, adjacent, to the residential. And then, with this development, I also think it allows for them to plan for how they would transition, between the two versus all of a sudden just, putting neighborhood commercial up there. So I think that this one is consistent based off of that. Any feedback or comments from any of the other commissioners?
Jeff, I agree with you. I did have a question on the staff report. It said the R2 may not be considered consistent. To me, just looking at the land use plan, it looks like it marries up perfectly. So I was unsure what the holdup there was.
This whole parcel is designated as commercial on the land use plan. So any section of residential on this plan is not considered consistent.
So am I reading the land use plan wrong that's here? Is that
Yeah,
not split?
Joey, this is that discussion I think we had the last meeting where we're showing
Okay.
what's proposed, the color of what's proposed.
I gotcha.
Underneath that is commercial. It's
Okay.
all red. Yeah,
That's
sorry
why I
about
was
that.
confused.
Yeah, we switched it up on you guys.
Any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? You still good with your comment, Joey?
Oh, this is Jerry.
Go ahead, Jerry.
You know, this is what, third time now that we've came across this same issue. And according to the comprehensive plan, it's that whole 9.8 acres is scheduled for commercial. I personally can't see that this rezoning this half of it for residential is, I just can't see that is compatible. And, you know, I mean, we've only got so many areas in the city that's designated commercial. And if we keep, you know, dividing them up, narrowing them down and everything, we're just losing our commercial area for the city. So I'm overall personally opposed to this rezone.
I mean,
Jerry, go ahead, Joey.
I agree with Jerry. I mean, we denied it, or it got tabled last time. Nobody was really on board with it for kind of the same reason that we're looking at now. Other than, I believe it was either townhomes or duplexes. Not really sure what changed other than the R2. Maybe the line shifted a little bit, but our whole rationale last time was that it's commercial, looking for commercial, it's limited, everything Jerry just said. And I do agree with Jerry.
And I do believe that if you go back, I think the square, I should say square footage, but the acreage did say the same. I think it was 5 and 4 last time, right? The only difference to this proposal was R2 instead of townhomes, right? So it's less residential, I should say, less footprint for residential, but it's the same thing. It's the same amount of land being used for residential, which is essentially 5-acre reduction from the comprehensive plan, right? Because the comp plan calls for the whole 9 acres.
Hey, Nicole, if you're controlling the screen, can you go back to the map?
It's stuck, or are you seeing the map?
Nope, you're fine. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
So the commercial stops at this parcel, if I'm reading it correct. Is that right?
You're correct. On the land use plan, this is the northernmost parcel of commercial.
Okay.
And on the comp plan, that whole area is commercial, right? Not the
Yes.
yellow that we're showing.
Yes, the entire parcel is designated as commercial on the comprehensive plan.
And then directly north of there is actually a large parcel of land that's just residential. Is that, if I'm reading this correct?
Yeah, there's 3 homes there. That's that home that's on the corner there with the entrance, and then there's 2 homes behind that. Yeah, the aerial view may show it better. But
Yeah, I think that one right now is kind of a rental. I'll call it the second house after you get past the corner. Is that correct?
yeah, there's 2 back there on that, behind that one on the corner. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking farther south. So the one today that has the fence around it, I think it's adjacent to this property, right?
The one with the fence that the oak trees keep falling on top of, yeah, is that's the one on the corner. And then there's that empty space, which is the 9 acres, and then there's the vineyard. The vineyard's on the, I guess, the adjacent north border to this property.
Okay.
So it's in between that corner house and that vineyard,
Yeah.
where they're basically 2 residential areas right there.
Okay. Can we go back to the plane again, Nicole? Sorry, I'm causing you pain.
Yeah, Jeff, if you look at the zoning map on the left, that small parcel that's A1, but on the south end, that's the vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then north of that parcel is that home on the corner with the fence.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I heard 1, 2, 3 that would not agree that it's compatible or that it's consistent. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And I do think that it's compatible. Again, it's residential / neighborhood commercial. So I do believe that it is compatible. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. Would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and surrounding areas? And again, I think that, we discussed the neighborhood commercial, the C3 being the less intensive, with the intent of, servicing the, residents, that are around. So I do think that, they would be permitted. Of course, then of course the residential that's proposed would be next to the residential that exists today. So does anybody disagree with that one? Okay. Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And this one I'm on the fence. And part of the reason I wanted to look at this a little bit was to see if there was other property in that area that if we sort of did something here that was a hybrid, if it would allow for that in the future. And unfortunately, I think that lot on the corner gets to be tough. If that was to open up. And so that was one of the reasons, that I wanted to look at the map a little bit closer was, is there something else there that we should take a look at? So I do think that this is one of those cases where if we make this exception, it would benefit the landowner. And it doesn't mean it's a good or a bad thing. Again, we have to consider all these. But in my opinion, it does benefit one landowner if we were to split something that, has been designated on our land use plan as commercial. Does anybody have any comments or disagree with that?
Jeff, no, I don't disagree. I was going to bring up the point, since this is on the fringe of the residential commercial buffer area, it's kind of one thing, but I think if you take this same layout, move it in the middle of this commercial strip along Main Street, it would be harder to consider. And so, I agree with you that I think it does provide a benefit.
Okay. If the public is opposed, why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? Does any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? I actually heard compliments, both from Greg, who has, spoken before, Carmen, a little concerning about the fact this was our third attempt. A little bit of question about, C3 being neighborhood commercial, but again, it is on the land use plan as a neighborhood commercial, in regards to servicing the residents. So I didn't necessarily hear any, true opposition, if you will, in regards to this. Any comments or any other things from the commissioners on that? Okay. Any additional comments or questions from any of the commissioners in regards to this rezone?
Jeff, I have a comment about this. And I feel the same way that Jerry and Joey do. If we set a precedence by chopping this in half, we kind of set a precedence, if I'm not mistaken, that if we continue south with that and we could actually lose some more commercial space and we wouldn't really have a leg to stand on for the next developer to come through that's going down south. So if we allow this, I feel like not only would we give up a certain section of commercial space that's currently planned, but also in the future, we'd have a tough time justifying why we wouldn't allow another split further down south.
Okay, thanks, Tony. If there are no additional comments, then I would entertain a motion for the rezone 2112.
This is Joey. I make a motion to deny rezone 2112 A1 to R2 and C3.
Devin, I'll second.
Whatever.
All right, we do have a motion and we have a second. Bill, if you would do roll call, noting that if you vote yes, you are denying.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Craig Langford.
No.
No. Okay. And Jeff Safarth.
I'm a no as well, but the majority rules, and so the request has been denied.
Yes, I got 5-2.
All right, thanks, Morale. Thanks, Jeff. All right, next on the agenda this evening is the rezone 12-14. This is Cedar Ridge. It's C2 to R3 single family and A1. It's just over 20 acres on Highway 72 west. Is the applicant on to give us a brief overview?
Yes, Brandon is here.
Hey, Brandon.
Hi there. How are you guys? So my name is Brandon Woodrome. I'm with JS Fenwick Properties, and we are currently acting as developers for this project. And what we have here is we have approximately 20 acres of property on Highway 72. And it's currently zoned C2, and we are asking to have it rezoned R3. Our intention is to develop 57 single family lots on this 20 acres. We've got several conditions on the site that we're working with, such as this used to be a fill site, and back in the 80s, and we've worked around the areas that we've deemed unsuitable for construction. It also has very deep ravines. There are 40-foot areas. There are 40-foot drops in areas of this development. And we're working around major transmission lines for Carroll Electric. And so we've put this plan together, and we feel like it meets the neighborhood. We feel like it meets the property. And I'll answer any questions if you have them.
All right, thanks, Brandon. Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Sure, this one's going to be a little bit of a long report, so bear with me. This request is actually going to be for both R3 and agriculture. The R3 single family is for 9.93 acres, and the agriculture is for the remaining 10.34 acres. We've also received a planned unit development request. This will be for the 615 PC agenda. The planned unit request is for about 57 single family 0 lot lined patio homes, including the dedication of a 8-acre city park, potentially a little bit bigger, but that's what we know for sure. And the PUD is subject to approval of this rezone request. And upon successful rezoning of the rezone request and public hearing, the intent is to develop the parcel as a residential subdivision. So PC recommendation is needed for council acceptance. If PC recommends, an ordinance will be taken for council acceptance on 5/11. High density residential has a typical max density of 5 to 7 units per acre. Agriculture is our zoning that is intended to protect from development. The property is bounded by Highway 72 to the northeast, which is an existing major arterial and is across from Versailles Boulevard. The site does have some very steep topography. The high point is near the northern end at 1293, and the lowest point is about 1186. There's 2 distinct ridges and slopes on either sides. Those are about 69%. So some very steep areas. There are some environmental concerns. The Civil War cave and karst recharge zone are near the site. It may be in the karst recharge zone. So this is an estimate of where the site is. It's not an exact location on it, but this is on the Benton County karst sensitivity map. The site does have an extremely high sensitivity to groundwater contamination. The stormwater drainage for the site is conveyed south into McKissick Creek. A consultation has been done with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who indicated that the proposed project would not result in a taking for the northern long-eared bat. However, they've recommended further coordination if any additional information is uncovered. As well, a formal site-specific evaluation and consultation may be warranted because of the proximity of the cave. The Civil War cave is also cave fish habitat, and they are a species listed as threatened. There were 29 test pits dug because of the history of the site as a fill site. Silty or sandy clay was found with limestone. That's part of why the R3 area was shrunk as much as it was. There is access to water. There is not currently sewer. The applicant has plans to coordinate a lift station. With the property to the west, there's some discussion with an adjacent developer as well. There are existing overhead electric lines that are bisecting the site, which is another reason that the R3 was limited. Another reason is because of the steep curve you can see to the south. We had some pre-development meetings with the applicant and discussed some of the site access with this area and the topography. It's a little dangerous, and there are accidents in this area. So we discussed potentially limiting some of the traffic in that area. We've also, because of the patio home design, it's a little bit more of a conservation neighborhood. If you all are not familiar with that, really what that is taking what could be a more spread out design and limiting this to a more dense development. So you get the same amount of homes, but they're compacted into more of a dense area. So this conservation, also called cluster subdivisions, could allow the property to be developed in an environmentally conscious manner. So this could yield around 60 units as requested. If it was developed as an R1 with an average of 2 units per acre, it would be about 4. R2 with an average of 4, it would be approximately 80, just to give you a comparison for what could be done and what could be done with this sort of conservation development. So, as far as surrounding zoning and existing uses, highway commercial C2 is located to the northwest. This is currently zoned C2. This has the Cedar Ridge Event Center and the Civil War Cave. Agricultural A1 is located to the west and south. Low density residential is located to the east. across from the highway, and Benton County is located to the north. So staff has looked at this and requested a zoning to R3 may be compatible with surrounding zoning and existing uses. So the adjacent low-density residential neighborhood is separated by the highway, and the parcel is surrounded by agricultural properties, and the development of the site does raise some environmental concerns. However, the site could serve as a transition between the low-density neighborhood Versailles and the adjacent highway commercial. And there is the set-aside agriculture, which could provide a buffer. And then the requested zoning to agriculture is compatible with the surrounding zoning, which is intended to protect sensitive land, and it's largely adjacent to agriculture. On the adopted land use plan, this parcel is designated as parks and open space on the comprehensive land use plan, and it's specifically designated as a proposed park on the parks, open space, and environmental features map. So the requested zoning to R3 single family is not considered consistent with the land use plan's designation of parks and open space, as residential uses are not consistent with creating a park. However, the Planning Commission should note that it is currently designated as highway commercial at this point, and it could be developed by right right now with a consistent highway commercial. The requested zoning to agriculture is considered consistent with parks and open space, as this is the only zoning district in the municipal code designed to protect land. So the description does specifically mention floodplain. There are some items included in your packet specific to comprehensive plan implementation, and I'm available for questions, as this packet had a lot of information. There are some exhibits in here specific to habitat and cave proximity, so there's a lot in here, so feel free to ask questions or whatever you need.
All right, thanks, Donna. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners before we open it up to the public? All right, if not, then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for rezone 2114 Cedar Ridge, C2 to R3 single family and A1.
This is Tony. I make a motion that we open up the public hearing for RZ 21-14 Cedar Ridge C2 to R3 SF and A1.
This is Joey. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, Diane or Donna, do we have anyone that wishes to speak?
Yes, we have a Holly Carmichael.
Hey, Holly, if you could just give us your address and then anything that you wish to comment or ask.
Absolutely. My name is Holly Carmichael, and I reside at 1311 Royal Avenue. We're in the Versailles development, which is, as has been noted, across the highway from the parcel that's under discussion. And my husband and I would just like to oppose the rezoning request to high density residential. The rezoning request itself is somewhat tricky. I would agree with the individual that summarized this before, because it's asking for two different things that are really kind of on opposite ends of the zoning spectrum. Number one, rezoning the highway commercial space into not just mere residential, but high density, zero lot line residential, But then it's also trying to soften the blow, I'm sure, by rezoning a portion into agricultural use that's presumably going to be available for public access. As a city park, we fully support all efforts, certainly, to preserve green space. We love what the community plan, the comprehensive plan has there. So in the interest of time, we would like to focus our comments on the first component, which is a request to rezone a nearly 10-acre portion to high-density residential. And first and foremost, we have significant traffic safety concerns with any additional residential development along this stretch of the highway. It is curved and a somewhat steep stretch of road. It has no turn lane and no space to add one. And the traffic routinely moves through there at 45 to 50 miles an hour. And the application states that they're planning on building 57, I just heard 60 homes directly on the highway. That will add, unquestionably, that adds considerable traffic throughout the day to an already treacherous stretch of state highway that serves as the main northern artery in and out of Centerton. And the traffic through there is already, it's going to become more harrowing again once everyone returns to their pre-COVID work arrangements. High density residential guarantees the highest amount of turning traffic in this stretch. And perhaps that's why the city's comprehensive plan identified this as the site of a proposed park. We do not see in the documents any evidence that a traffic impact study was performed, and in particular taking into account the heavier post-COVID traffic rather than the current traffic loads. And we really think that that's a reasonable and responsible request before inserting such a large number of residents on this small curvy section of state highway. Secondly, of course, we are concerned about aesthetics and just detrimental impact on our existing R1 residential, which is across the highway in the Versailles development. The property that's being discussed currently has many large trees. They're beautiful, and we're of course concerned that they would be completely cleared to accommodate the tricky terrain and the zero lot line high density plan. That natural green space, together with all the other many trees that are preserved on our side of the highway in Versailles and on other private lots, really does provide a distinctive entrance, a welcoming entrance to Centerton from Bentonville, and replacing those beautiful trees to the south or the west, I guess, feels like south to me, but since it's on an angle, to the west with a wall of homes, we believe is visually jarring and inconsistent with just the whole character of the McKissick Creek corridor. Lower density residential would at least allow space for some of those trees to be retained and the natural beauty to be somewhat preserved. And we really believe that lower density residential would also be more consistent with the comprehensive plan. Let's see. In summary, one other, well, never mind. I know we're short on time. In summary, we oppose the high residential rezoning, and it's primarily due to traffic safety concerns. We would really ask that the owner present some facts in the form of a post-COVID traffic impact study to address those concerns and to make it safe, or at least propose a way to make the traffic safe. We also oppose rezoning space that the comprehensive land use plan identified as a proposed park into high density residential. We oppose rezoning to create a residential development that is not directly adjacent to any existing neighborhood. Versailles is across the highway, but it seems like a stretch to describe it as adjacent when the highway is uncrossable by pedestrians at that stretch. And the homes in Versailles are buffered from the highway by parcels that our POA holds as green space. So we wanted to ask that you weigh the safety concerns and the inconsistencies of the comprehensive plan, and ultimately either reject or revise this high density residential rezoning request. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Diane, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Yes, we have a Jeff McDonough.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello, it's Jeff McDonough. I'm at 0804 West Highway 72, My parcel is directly across the street and has the largest border with this parcel that you guys are considering. My parcel, I'm not in the city of Centerton. I'm actually in Benton County, and I've been here nearly 30 years. So I've seen what's been across the street there for quite a long time. I agree with the previous speaker that we are opposed to this high density designation for this 9+ acres. It's already been noted that there is no sewer to this property at this point in time. And without a sewer to this property, I would consider anything besides low density residential to be detrimental. There's just way too much, 57 septic tanks is completely unacceptable when I'm sitting across the street with a well. And I would expect that that's a major problem for the Civil War cave and the wildlife or the protected species there. The traffic situation is also, it can't be understated. It can't be overstated. It is beyond belief what it takes to pull out onto 72 during the morning rush hour and the afternoon. Versailles actually has a reasonable amount of sight line, but from my side of the road, the sight lines are terrible. And I don't believe that there's any way to make the sight lines from an entrance from this property any better. So we agree. We oppose the high density. It doesn't meet with anything that borders this. Okay, like you said, there is development going on farther back that's being developed right now. But Versailles is R1. Obviously, the property that I'm part of across the street is low density as well, large lots. So I don't have any particular questions except that we voice our opposition to this being a high density zoning and really concerned about what would happen to that property by developing it. I recognize that it is currently zoned commercial, but unless somebody was getting ready to put in a dump truck business or something, I don't know what that would be. For the commission, I would like to ask, could you put the aerial view with the map overlays up for just a minute? I've looked at this in the package, and this is a very, very poor overlay. You'll notice that the red line for Highway 72 is nowhere near where Highway 72 actually is. That entire overlay has been shifted to the west significantly. So this is a very, very poor indication of where the subject property is. When you look at this and the plats and such that go with it, it's completely out of whack. And so it's almost impossible to really understand where these things are based on that.
Where that white line is in front of Versailles.
Yeah.
That's where 72 is,
Yes,
not the
that's
red line.
agreed. And I guess that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, can I get your address again? I got the Highway 72, but I didn't get the house number.
It's 10804.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right. Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
Jeff, thank you for pointing that out. That came from the interactive map, so we'll see what's going on with that.
Certainly. That looks way better.
Jeff, there is no one else with their hands raised. Oh, wait, I take that back. We have Greg Harris back again. Hang on a second.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Greg Harris, 1420 Moray Lane. And, I, for one, would like to support the A1 rezone of that portion of the land. I think that is fantastic. But I can't for the life of me begin to believe how R3 would even be remotely consistent with any land use plan or compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. It is, and I have a feeling that we're back in the same boat we were just in, where the land investor is going to come at us with you know, their want list of R3, and when they get shot down, if they do, then they're going to try to come back with an R2 and then back with an R1, and they're going to keep bringing us back and back. And I hope that if the board goes against this, they send an emphatic message to them that this land is designated for park space for the city use, and that is what it should stay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. All right, Diane, anyone else who wishes to speak?
I do not see any additional hands raised.
We'll do a second call for anyone that wishes to speak in regards to rezone 2115.
There are no additional hands.
And we'll do a third and final call.
There is no one else.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
It's Tony, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, any questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we go through the 5 things that we need to consider?
I guess I have a question. It goes back to the land use map that we have here. Is it all, what does the land use call this out as? For the
Okay, I will explain that one, Joey. This one is, we're still trying to get it all straightened out, but this is all green space, parks, and open space. So the orangey kind of colored line is the area that they are asking for the R2, and everything there to the south that has kind of the light green, thank you, Nicole, area around it is the open space.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to, you know, see if I could confuse you even more. On a
No,
Tuesday
you're
night.
good. It keeps changing. I just gotta keep
I
asking.
know, because some of these maps are older and some of them are newer, so we'll get it all straight.
All right, so that we're clear, it's currently C2 is what it's zoned, but on the land use designated as parks and open space. And then as Joey just asked and got clarification, the R3 is the upper portion, if you will, and then the A1, the lower portion. So, all right. So let's go through our questions that we need to consider. The first one is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? If not, why? And I think that we're faced with similar questions in the fact that it's really, you know, land use from a park and an open space. There's a portion of it that meets that from an A1, but definitely when you do the R3, it's not necessarily consistent with the land use plan. Does anybody disagree with that or have any other comments?
I don't disagree, Jeff, but currently it is zone commercial there. So this, I guess, would be considered less intensive, correct?
It would be considered less intensive, yes.
And, okay, yep.
Okay. So I think we have mixed on this one, you know, in regards to the fact there is some A1, but the fact that there's proposed for 57 homes, I think is against the fact from an open park perspective.
It is less intensive, Jeff, like you said, from C2, but the plan isn't to move forward with C2. The plan is for all of that to be open space, right? A1, well, parks. If you look at the comp plan, that C2 is supposed to change to parks and open space, correct?
Yeah, I think that's true, John, but man, that's a going backwards there. You know, that's a hard one to just kind of get somebody to give it up as open space would be my counterpoint to that.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I would say there are some C2 that are probably not as intensive, right? I mean, if you just go out the highway a little bit, you know, as an example, what they did with the Highway 72 West, you know, it would be commercial, but a lot of green space. And there's one building versus 57. So I think it's, you know, kind of a mixed, you know, there whenever we consider, you know, the actual, you know, intensity of it, but definitely 57 homes, you know, could be more intensive. That's for sure.
I mean, even right next to it, the parcel right next to it is that wedding event, wedding chapel, events chapel, or whatever you want to call it, which is one building with a lot of green space. Right.
Yep.
Did I hear earlier that somebody mentioned a PUD? Or was I mistaken?
Donna did mention a.
Yes, we have received a PUD request it is subject to this rezone, and you should be receiving that on June 15th.
Okay. And you know, as much as that doesn't affect this land use, with the open space consideration, it's my opinion that, you know, if I own the land, right now I could do commercial, nobody could say anything. That's what I would do. You know, it's kind of hard to give it up to give it all back open space. But with the fact that the PUD is submitted, not saying they have to go through with it, it gives the opportunity to provide a little more open space and kind of make that fit a little better. And in my opinion, at the end of the day there, that could be a less intense use that has more open space and has more input by the planning commission than leaving it commercial, which meets the intent of the land use.
Yeah, just again, I think you noted it, but the fact that they don't have to bring it, you know, they could simply follow through with R3 single family instead of a planned unit development. All right, let's go on to the next question. Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? I'm on the fence here because it is residential, which there are some residential areas, you know, that are there, that are near it. You know, understand that Versailles across, but also down. I mean, they purposely, you know, kind of put themselves away from the highway and, you know, kind of allowed for that nice entrance. You go around the corner, you have larger lots as well. So although it's a more intensive, you know, use, if you will, from a single family, from an R3 single family, you know, it is residential. And so I'm kind of on the fence on that, you know, as far as that. I would say the other being R1, and I believe that the other two are most likely either R1 or RE as well, if you were to go up around the corner. So I'm on the fence on this one. I do agree that the agriculture is definitely compatible. Of course, also being designated as open space. So any thoughts or comments in regards to that?
Would we consider any of the future land use plan in this consideration, or is it strictly just existing? Because I think that kind of changes the answer.
I think we would consider what's there today, is the way that I look at it, but certainly open for discussion, you know, on the way that you would look at it. But I consider it, you know, the surrounding area and zones as it exists today is the way that I look at it. That's just me, but again, open for discussion. And I know John's got his mic off as well.
Well, I think it can go both ways there. You know, you have commercial up to the northwest, obviously. Lost my map. But anyways, that transition back is typically done with the medium high density residential and progressing down to the lower density residential. And then the fact that the adjacent property is slated to be medium high density residential in the future, I think would add some merit to the compatibility. Now, across the street, low density, kind of a different deal. I have an idea that might be due to utility availability. So I'm with you, Jeff. There's definitely some yay and nays on that one.
John, you unmuted, it looks like. Did you have something to add?
Sorry, he covered everything I was going to. It's two different answers if you look at today's map versus the land use plan. If you're looking about what's there today, I would say it's not. But if you're looking at what's there planned for the future, I would say it is compatible.
Okay. Next question, would all the permitted uses in this new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? Again, there are single family residences that are near, across, down the highway. So from a single family residential, I would agree that the permitted uses would be around the surrounding areas. I think it's the same double-edged sword when we also look at the future. Those a patio home situation or an R3 single family may be that transition. So again, I think this could be answered two different ways depending on the way that we look at either now or the future. But from a single family, there are single family areas, that are across and behind. So any comments, anything on that?
The only thing I would add is that there is existing commercial to the northwest at this time.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? This, I think, is one of those unique ones as well, in the fact that, from a land use perspective, we did designate it as parks and open space. So I think similar to what we discussed earlier, in the fact that if we were to make an exception on here, we would be benefiting one landowner. Does anybody disagree with that?
I just feel like I'm talking right behind you on that, Jeff. The only thing that might be different about this one than any other green space area that we have slated, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would say that the one caveat that we could have in the future, if this were to pass, is that this was already zoned commercial, and the proposed zoning is less intensive. It's still maintained, the whole site didn't get rezoned. It's still maintaining some of the intent of the land use plan. So I feel like there's some items to fall back on there in the future if this comes up again on a different piece of property.
Okay. All right. The last one, if the public is opposed, why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion-based? Does any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? If we go back to the comments, of course, traffic was one of the concerns that was brought up by a couple of different folks. I drive 72 on a regular basis. There is traffic on there. I think that Holly, if I made a note right here, I think she alluded to home value, but didn't necessarily call it out. But I made a note that potentially that's what she was alluding to. And Jeff talked a little bit about infrastructure, but I think they mentioned it's down the road some way. And then of course Greg talked about the fact that what's the land use plan look like versus some other things that we've considered as well. So what I would say, a few facts, and then a few that talked about without a traffic study, of course, the fact that there would potentially be some more traffic. Of course, today it's commercial, and they could put something on there that would have some significant amount of traffic. So just something to consider. So any thoughts on any of that?
To clarify, the intent is not to put septic. The discussion is for a lift station to be coordinated with some of the adjacent development. Since that was one of the comments, just wanted to make sure to clarify that.
All right, thanks, Donna. All right. Any other discussion or comments or any clarification for any of the commissioners?
This is Jerry, just for clarification. The land is currently zoned commercial, but in the land use plan, it's designated as parks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
My question is, how much of that is zone commercial? Is it just the orange, or the orange part that's on
The entire parcel, is designated as commercial at this
That's
time.
all encompassing commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would question why we even zoned that commercial there, to be honest with you. That's very rugged terrain. I don't know how much you would, need to develop that area if you've driven by there, or what you could even put there.
And I don't know the history, John, of how it became commercial. Along with, I don't remember the exact discussion when it came to the land use plan. My guess is the park situation came up because of the land and how rugged it is, and the fact that there's the cave and some other things, I think is probably the reason that we, talked about the idea of a open space there.
I think it makes sense as to why we would, on the comp plan, make that a park or open space. It's on the side of a mountain. That's more like trails and things of that nature near the cave, I would assume.
Can I ask a quick question? I was trying to follow the maps here. Where is the cave relative to this property? Okay, it's off the property?
It's basically behind, it's behind that event center. There's a little trail back there you could walk down.
Okay.
It'd be like the corner of the orange on the land use plan.
Yeah. I would just think, if the intent was green space, open park area, maintaining some sort of access to that feature would be great in the future. Again, not a technically a discussion for now, kind of relevant, but not.
I do have a question for clarification on Joey's comment about a future PUD coming into this property. Is that contingent upon this rezone?
Yes, that is. And that is something that will be coming to you in a couple of meetings. But that is contingent on this rezone passing.
And it could be dropped completely and they just do R3, Tony.
I guess my question would then be, and this is, I think, where Tony was going, can we actually make it part of the motion and stick with it? Or if we make it a part of it, could they drop that because they've already got the R3 designation? And that may be more of a question for Mr. Rabel if he's on, or maybe.
I'm here, but can you repeat that question?
So there's a pending planned unit development that they have, I believe, either had a discussion and or sent to staff for us to consider in June. And so the question, Brian, is can we make that part of the proposal, if you will, in motion, and stick to them bringing us a PUD, or could they say, well, we've already got R3 single family, we don't need to bring the PUD back to
I think we have to stick to what exactly is on the agenda for purposes of notice.
Okay. And so if that's the case, then we can't designate the PUD be a part of the motion then. If
Correct.
Tony and
And
Joe.
that kind of affects the way I'm thinking about voting on this, because like Joey said, if we approve it right now, we're apt to approve something with a proposal with a PUD along with a rezone contingent at the same time. That way we do have some control and a promise from a developer that this will be how it develops, instead of just taking a chance. Hey, we approve this. We're hoping a PUD comes in because we'll have some control over the PUD on how it's laid out, more so than just carte blanche turning over C2 commercial to a R3 zone.
So Tony, I guess one more thing to think about. I've seen different cities where they actually have a PUD zoning, which sticks to that PUD. It's tied together. We don't do it like that.
Right, we don't
and
do it
this-
like that. That's
Yeah, and
one
this might be a Nicole question, but what happens if we approve it that way to the PUD? That entity goes defunct. It's sitting there R3. Anybody can buy it and do R3. Just kind of
Well,
playing
now-
devil's advocate here.
No, I understand. Now, I know in some cities, smaller cities, that I know one in particular, they have, if it comes in as PUD and it goes defunct, then it resorts back to the existing zoning that was there previously.
This may be something that Brandon could speak to, but potentially an option would be to table this until the PUD comes to Planning Commission in another couple meetings.
That sounds like a good option.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that.
Brandon,
Because
would
I
that be
don't know if I
something
can
you would be
support
comfortable
that.
with?
Yeah, this is Brandon with Finwood Properties. I would be comfortable with that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I would like to say that the plan that you've seen of 57 lots, where they're basically 50 by 100, some of them are 120 deep. That plan would not fly under an R3 zoning. That would only fly if the PUD was approved. R3 requires, I believe, 65-foot lots in width, and we're at 50, and it doesn't allow for 0 lot lines. So for that plan, as we're promoting it to actually work, we would have to keep the PUDs. And we just pull the PUD. We have to have the PUD to make that plan work. But I am fine with tabling it until you guys can take a look at the PUD if that's what you like.
All right,
Brandon,
thank
this is Joey. I don't want to speak for everybody. Sorry, Jeff, but I would certainly appreciate that. And I would also just ask some advice, if we're going to PUD to get something more intense than we can get on a typical R3, we're going to be looking for some give and take on that. And on this one, just personally, I would be looking for a design to highlight the aspect of the open space trail and highlight the features on this property.
Now, I concur with that comment. That's exactly, we can this is, a PUD will allow us to compromise. We can get our green space and have the developer be able to make a little bit higher density than what he normally would, but he offsets that with green space. So I'm open to a compromise on a PUD type proposal.
And that's what we're trying to do here by dedicating. It shows 8 acres. There actually be another 4 acres as well as that 8. That's what we're trying to do is dedicate those acreage for green space to meet the master plan. But I can provide more information on what we think the trail will look like and highlight some of the features of the site that would be dedicating its green space. It'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Before we move forward with a potential table, are there any other questions or comments from any of the other commissioners?
Yeah, this is Jerry. I've got myself a little bit confused here, I guess now, because let me just ask you this way. Is the PUD in the future contingent on this rezoning?
So yes,
Yes.
because it's
In other words, if we were to deny the rezone tonight, the PUD would be null and void in 3 weeks from now.
Correct, because it would be for residential, and the land would still be commercial.
Okay, all right, I understand, thanks.
And two, I want to add, my previous comment about commercial, I'm pretty set on my opinion that we don't need to give up commercial. There's exceptions to all the rules, right? And I think the terrain and the location of this commercial space would be the only one of the rare times that I would vote to give up commercial space.
Tony, I'm in agreement with that too.
But Tony, when you look at it, we've kind of already given that up when you look at the comp plan, right? I mean, the comp plan calls for this to go from commercial to, open space parks, right? So in that case, we've already looked at that, and that is the intent, I guess, of the comp use plan, is to give up that small piece of commercial.
And to add to what John's saying, Tony, in both instances tonight, with the previous one before this and this one, we are being consistent with the land use plan. This was commercial previously. We're trying to get it down to meet the land use plan. And the other one, we did the same thing.
All right. If there's no additional questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to table the rezone 2114 for Cedar Ridge.
This is Craig. I'll make the motion to table rezone 2114.
Joey, I'll
Yeah,
second.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you guys. Good discussion. Thank you, Brandon. For those residents that joined us, this is on the agenda for, I believe, June 15th. And so just kind of mark that on your calendar, because they will not send any additional notifications out, because they already sent the notifications out, which is what they're required to do. So our intent will be to revisit this on June 15th, and there will be opportunity for public input and comments, just like there was tonight. So just wanted to make that note, since we did have a couple of folks that decided to join tonight. So just wanted to make that note. So thank you, guys. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good night.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is rezone 2115, the Gray Wisdom Trust from A1 to R3 duplex. This is 37 acres south end of Bates Lane. And is Nicole is the applicant here, either Sandeep, I guess, is Sandeep here to give us an overview?
Yes, he is. One moment, please. Sandeep, I've allowed you to speak.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Hello, thank you, Centerton City Planning, and thank you for your service, commissioners. In alignment with the city's future plan, we intend to develop duplexes on this property. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sandeep. Nicole, do you want to give us a staff overview?
I would. So this property is about 37.07 acres, and the request is to rezone from agricultural A1 to high density residential duplex, which is R3D. It's located at the it's located southeast of the southernmost point of Bates Lane. There's not a structure on it, so it doesn't have an address. The owner's intentions are to develop the property, again, to align with the city's future land use plan and contributing to the organized development of the city of Centerton. This is for Planning Commission recommendation for council acceptance. If PC recommends approval of the rezone, an ordinance will be taken before council for approval on May 11th. The R3 high density residential duplex district is intended for 2-family dwellings with a suitable lot area. It has a minimum lot area of 8,500 square feet and a 80-foot lot width. And it has a typical maximum density of 8 to 10 units per acre. The property, as you can see in these exhibits, is bordered along the north by a proposed major collector and along the east by a proposed major collector. Bates Lane is a local designation on our master street plan, and then Tycoon is a major arterial that's non-adjacent. The adjacent collectors are to the north and to the east. And just as a note, the north alignment aligns with Shell Road all the way to the east and into Bentonville, and then the east alignment goes up north to Wade Drive, if you all are familiar with that, and ultimately to Keller. Let's see. There is public water available on the property along Bates Lane. There's sewer in the vicinity. It's not directly adjacent to those properties, so they'd have to extend it, but it is in the vicinity. There is some wetland designation on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service inventory mapper just in the very south west corner of the property, and that will need to be assessed upon development, whether it's jurisdictional or not. The surrounding area is within the Centerton jurisdiction is primarily A1. There are a couple of non-adjacent R1 low density zoning districts in this area, but it's directly adjacent to A1 districts. It's approximately a mile southwest of the new Grimsley Junior High School, which cannot be seen on this exhibit, but let me see if I can find one for you. This one kind of shows it. It's kind of up here in this corner is the new junior high, and then the Benton County Fairgrounds are down here somewhere, and it's about 1.5 miles northwest of the Benton County Fairgrounds. It is adjacent to Bentonville city limits as well. And again, I'm sorry, I'm driving and talking at the same time, which is beyond my capability apparently. But it is adjacent to primarily agricultural zoning in Bentonville. There is a recent rezone non-adjacent to the south to R1 single family. And then there's this area that's hatched that was approved by Planning Commission, but I'm not sure that it went to council or was approved by council. So it's kind of halfway approved to R1 single family residential. So there's the potential to be adjacent to that district, and that is described in your packets for Bentonville standards. But staff would consider the requested zoning potentially higher density than the current zoning and uses, but it may be considered compatible with the largely residential area and being in the vicinity of the junior high school, which we know is this area is growing rapidly and is anticipated to grow rapidly. The adopted land use plan for the city of Centerton designates this area as medium high density residential, which is the orange in this map. And you can see the proposed Tycoon commercial corridor kind of adjacent to that medium high density designation. And then in Bentonville, they consider this area kind of fringe for them. It's kind of their fringe area, and it is still designated for agricultural at this time. They do have a low density residential designation along Vaughn Road for the existing, I think it's Winsong subdivision. Let's see, So the requested zoning to R3 duplex is considered consistent with the current land use plan designation of medium high density residential. That designation allows for, I believe, 7 to 11 units per acre. And again, the R3D has a typical max density of 8 to 10. So it is within that threshold. There's a number of comp plan implementation items for your consideration, some being possibly consistent and some being possibly inconsistent. But overall, I believe that is the information I have for you all.
All right, thanks, Nicole. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners before we open it up to the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to open the rezone 2115, the Gray Wisdom Trust from A1 to R3 duplex.
This is John. I motion open the public hearing for rezone 2115.
Yes, Jerry, I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Again, if you join virtually, there's the opportunity to press the raise the hand button. Or if you join by phone, you can do *9 to raise your hand. And so with that, Diana, is there anyone that wishes to speak?
Yes, we do have a call-in number that ends in 536 that would like to speak.
All right. The ending number in 536, if you just give us your name and your address, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Deborah Benson Simpson. I live at 12989 Huber Road. Lived there 28 years, half a block from the intersection of Huber and Bates. And my main concern is traffic. It's a gravel road. It's a car width wide. It cannot support traffic going to the proposed duplex area.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
There are no additional hands raised.
We'll do a second call for anyone that wishes to speak in regards to rezone 2115.
There are no hands raised.
And we'll do a third and final call.
There are no hands raised.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This Jerry, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second.
All right. Got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right. Let's go to our 5 things that we need to consider. Nicole's still driving there. Thank you. So the first thing is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan. If not, why? And I would say this one is consistent in the fact that it's medium to high density residential. Does anybody disagree with that? Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And again, I believe there are, residential areas that are around this area. The rather close proximity, I guess, to the school. So I would say that it is. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. The next one, would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? And again, they're asking for residential duplex. And so it would be compatible, in regards to the surrounding areas. Does anybody disagree with that? Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I don't think this one necessarily benefits one landowner in the fact that they're asking for residential, duplex in line with the land use plan. Does anybody disagree with that? And the last one, if the public is opposed, why? Mention of traffic by Deborah. And there, would be some additional traffic, but of course, there would be some, possibility, and I don't know if Rick's following this or not, but, possibility, to get some, right away and some other things in order to, as part of the development. So are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? Any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? And of course, there would be some additional traffic, but that would happen whether there was duplex or whether there was single family, residential, there would be additional traffic. Any comments or questions on any of those?
Jeff, this is Craig. I'd like to bring up, I think it kind of correlates with this one to some degree, but in staff's findings on number 7, comprehensive plan implementation, specifically item 20, it states to prioritize the completion of subdivisions rather than development of greenfields that would require new infrastructure. And so that kind of goes to what she was saying. Hey, it's dirt road, it's 1 lane, or at least a narrow 2 lane. So there is some factual disagreement there that kind of makes sense to what she was saying.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Craig. Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for the rezone 2115, the Gray Wisdom Trust from A1 to R3 duplex. Again, just over 37 acres, south end of Bates Lane.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve rezone 2150 Gray Wisdom Trust A1 to R3 duplex.
Tony, I second.
We have a motion and a second. Bill, if you will do the roll call for me.
No.
I'll let him, you want it, Bill, or you want me to grab it?
Oh, either way is fine. Go
We
ahead.
want Todd.
I want Todd. We're going to put in the work.
We put, the mayor his job's never done. All right, Tony Davis,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Devin Murphy, yes, Craig Langford,
Yes.
and Jeff Seifarth.
Jeff's a yes as well. All right, next on the agenda this evening is a conditional use. This is conditional use 2102 Saving Grace, 12141 Highway 72 West, A1, 49.5 acres. And so this one, because it's a conditional use, we'll go ahead and let the applicant go ahead and give us an overview. We'll get a staff overview, and then we'll open it up to the public. Is the applicant on to give us an overview? Donna, do you know if either Becky or Keith or?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Hey, first of all, thank you guys for staying late for us. This is awesome. I am Becky Schaefer, and I'm with Saving Grace NWA, and our hope is to expand our services for young women aging out of foster care or facing homelessness in Northwest Arkansas. These young women are 18 to 25 years old. I would like to point out that one of the things that I've heard discussed over and over tonight is just the concern with traffic. And most of our girls, well, none of our girls actually have vehicles when they first come in. And then they actually purchase their own vehicle later in the program. We work hard to teach them we want them to learn by doing. And so the program is set up so that they can work and learn as they go. We will go from serving 12 young women to serving 30 on that property. And we do this because we receive about 125 applicants a year. And we knew it was time for us to grow. So we're excited about this opportunity.
All right, thanks, Becky. I appreciate it. Donna, do you have a staff overview?
I do. So this parcel is north of Big Sky Phase 2, which you saw earlier today. It is zoned agriculture A1. It's about 49 acres, and it is 3 parcels. The conditional use application is for a group home, residential facility, which is conditionally allowed in the agriculture zoning district. The intent is to develop the property to increase the capacity of the Saving Grace from 12 to 50. The property contains 3 existing houses and an existing barn. No new structures are being proposed. The plan is to redevelop, renovate the existing structures. As Nicole has pulled up the map, you can see the structures there. A conditional use permit requires the approval of Planning Commission. So you may put conditions on the permit to mitigate any adverse impacts of the use. Saving Grace is a nonprofit, type 170B1A6. It is generally consistent with the comp plan. It is an alternative form of density, maybe consistent with alternative forms of density, meeting housing needs of the community. This area of the adopted land use plan is low density residential and wants to preserve large lot residential areas, which this does preserve. The surrounding lots are generally is adjacent to Big Sky, which is R2 residential. Agriculture, which is, you have just rezoned to R2, and Benton County to the north and west. There is also a single lot of C1 Central Business District. It is adjacent to the highway, which is major arterial, which is currently how the property is being accessed. There is a minor arterial that is proposed on the master street plan. This would be something that would be developed with the large scale development plan. So that would be something we would discuss at that time. And there is a trail that is proposed adjacent to the highway on the master trail plan. So the design concept is to renovate the existing house adjacent to the corner as an office volunteer station with parking. Another house into a cottage for new program participants. This house at the southern portion of the property for established program participants, and add a second bathroom to the barn. There's an out structure south of the barn that could be a future classroom. Can we move to conditions, please? We propose that the term of approval be indefinite, as this would be essentially a permanent use until it is discontinued. Setbacks should be maintained for agricultural. We would need a large-scale development plan if for any site alterations, including site lighting, if there's any site lighting to be maintained, a public hearing. Number of occupants would be limited to no more than 50 residents plus staff. And no more that residences should not exceed fire or building codes. A fire inspection would be required. And ADA accommodations should be met. There should be a screening next to more intensive uses like parking or assembly areas. And an item that is been noted as being included is equine assisted therapy, so horses. So for the horses, they should make sure to follow all of the municipal code regarding the keeping of animals. And then there are a number of general requirements such as building and fire code permits, future modifications. If we receive complaints, we can come back and review it. Those sort of items, they're all included in your packet. And we got a couple of comments from building and fire, generally that plans will have to be reviewed prior to approval. If there are any comments or questions, please let me know and I can answer as you need them.
All right, thank you, Donna. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners before we open it up to the public?
We did receive one public comment from someone who lives nearby. The Saving Grace packet had mentioned the possibility of some efficiency apartments or tiny homes. So there was some opposition to that. However, that is not part of this request.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I would like to go ahead and entertain a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 2102 Saving Grace.
It's John. I motion to open public hearing for conditional use 2102 Saving Grace.
This is Joey. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, we now open for the public. Again, if you join virtually, you can raise your hand. Or if you join by phone, you can do *9 to raise your hand, and then you can be recognized by the last 3 digits of your number. With that, Diane, is there anyone that wishes to speak?
We have a hand raised for someone that has the phone number that ends in 171 that they would like to speak.
All right, number ending in 171. We just need your name and your address, please.
Good evening, guys. My name's Kelly Kessner. I'm at 3771 Whitefish. My house is actually directly east and attaches to the property. So one, I just wanted to say, based on the plan that's been presented, these properties, if you're familiar with the previous stables here, have been empty for quite some time. So I think that this and what Becky is doing would be a great addition to that property, so it's not vacant and has been put to good use. One of the comments from the public that Donna alluded to is about the potential future development of the tiny homes and the efficiency apartments. So my only comment is I'm supportive of the property as it's designed. But if there are larger scale, moving it to high density, that is something that I would want to be considered in the future.
All right, thanks, Kelly. All right, Diane, anyone else that wishes to speak?
I do not see any additional hands raised.
We'll do a second call for anyone that wishes to speak on the conditional use.
I do not see any additional hands.
And we'll do a third and final call.
There are no additional people wishing to speak.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
It's John, a motion to close public hearing for conditional use 2102 Saving Grace.
Joey, I second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners in regards to the conditional use or any of the proposed conditions that Donna outlined as part of the condition? The only one that I wanted clarification on, I wrote down, unless I misunderstood, Becky, I thought said 12 to 30 in the application, I believe, or what Donna stated was to 50. And I don't know if that matters as part of the condition, but I would just like to get clarification on whether that number is 30 or whether that number is 50.
The condition is to limit the number of residents to 50 plus staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If there is not, then I would entertain a motion for conditional use 2102 Saving Grace. Again, it's at 12141 Highway 72 West.
This is John. I'll motion to approve conditional use 2102 Saving Grace as prescribed with the special conditions outlined by staff.
This is Jerry, I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Todd, if you will do a roll call for me.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
and Jeff Seifarth.
I'm a yes as well. Thank you, Becky, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good evening. Next on the agenda this evening is subdivision 20-13 Maple Estates, Phase 1A. Replat lots 1 and 2, final plat, creating lots 120 to 127. It is at 1240 Silver Maple Street. As a reminder, it's R2, 2.05 acres, and it's 8 single-family lots. Nick, are you on to give us a quick overview?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Diego Garcia. I'm the engineer. We have some French representing the project. We have completed construction of the subdivision, as you talked about, creating 8 lots, replatting lots 1 and 2, and the addition of sidewalk along Gamble Road. Most of the infrastructure was already in place before all work took place. The only thing that we were required to do was install services for the subdivision, minor grading, but most of the infrastructure is already there. The only thing that's left to do is, and I know Donna's going to talk about it, is move the existing sign between lots 124 and lot 3 and then 123 and 29. Thing is just kind of facing the construction of it and making sure that the current residents are happy with the aesthetics of the subdivision before we kind of move it towards the front, towards Gamble. anything else, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thanks, Diego. Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Yeah, so we have received final plat and record documents for Maple Estates Phase 1A, which will replat lots 1 and 2 to create lots 120 to 127. We have gone out and done final inspections. The preliminary approval was received 10/20 of last year. It's contingent on variance and vacation approvals. The variance was received also on 10/20/20, and the vacation was received on 11/10/20 to vacate 18 feet of the 25-foot utility easement, as well as the sign and landscaping easements. The plat for the vacation is being completed on this plat. We've received a proposed amendment to the covenants, which has been reviewed and accepted by staff and the city attorney. We have received bonds. Well, we have reviewed and approved bonds for water and sewer for $21,762.50 is the bond we will need to receive. Streets and drainage is recommend waiving the bond amount. Or Public Works is recommend waiving the bond for streets and drainage. The right-of-way dedication for Gamble Road was previously dedicated with the Maple Estates bond, the Maple Estates phase. We have already received a signed adjacent street agreement with 10-7, which included the curb and gutter and sidewalk along Gamble Road with a pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection. We have inspected the constructed improvements. The record drainage analysis has been accepted by engineering. And the remaining site work has been completed except for the subdivision sign and associated landscaping, which has been something that planning and building has been discussing. So because the vacation has vacated those easements, we have been discussing that it would be preferable to have those signs relocated before we accept the plat. Diego and the developer, Nick, have stated that their intent, excuse me, I don't have this directly in front of me, is to relocate these at the time when they are constructing the house, so that way they can minimize the amount of waste and so that they can reuse as many materials as possible. There's also been some discussion with building safety in regards to the new sign easement. Building safety wants to have a buffer in regards to the new sign location and the building setback, which is something we have been working with them to ensure meets building safety. So we're working on some final adjustments to the plat on that regard. For record documents, we've just got some minor adjustments on that, mostly relating to the sign and landscaping easements. Plat is also generally just relating to the sign easements. But other than that, both documents are generally in good shape. If you have any questions, let me know. The project is overall in good shape. It's just the sign and landscaping easement that's really the last little bit of things we need to get worked out.
So, Don, I have one question. Can they vacate this easement with this plat?
The vacation has already been approved. What we have been requesting is to have a vacation plat in order to have the vacation of an easement be searchable. Just because this vacation was completed so close to the final plat of this project being done, it was easier to have it be done with this plat rather than doing a completely separate plat.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. Typically, I just see the instrument number where it was vacated on the plat, but it sounds like you got it worked out.
We have had them add a note referencing the ordinance by which the vacation was done.
Any additional comments or questions from any of the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain a motion for subdivision 2013 Maple Estates, Phase 1A, the replat, lots 1 and 2, final plat.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve Maple Estates final plat, subdivision 20-13.
It's John, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thanks, Diego. All right, next on the agenda this evening is vacation 2102, lot 96 Versailles, the Marley property. Jared, did you hang with us?
You'd wake him up.
Man,
Hey, I'm
hopefully
just
put
waiting for
somebody
you
in charge.
guys.
All right, I think we have an overview from Jared, so I'll just go ahead and let staff. Donna, anything that you want to add in regards to the staff comments?
We have gotten comments from most of the utility companies. We had received the only utilities that we are aware of are Underground Electric, as that's shown on the plans, but we've not gotten confirmation from Carroll Electric, at least that I am aware of, as I was out of the office all day. But none of the utility companies that we have heard from have any objections, and nor do any of the abutting property owners.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners in regards to the vacation? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for the vacation 2102, lot 96 Versailles. Again, it's the Marley property to vacate 8 feet of the 15-foot utility and drainage easement at 1505 Chateau Court.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve vacation 2102 with the confirmation from the outstanding utilities.
This is Craig, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you guys. Thanks, Jared. Good luck. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is a zoning code audit with a scope of work to the city council to be presented on 5/11. And I believe that Nicole is going to give us an overview.
Yes, and I will try to keep it brief. We mentioned this at the last meeting. but there's an initiative to get this zoning audit scope of work from House of Levine in front of council for their consideration on May 11th. And essentially what this zoning audit is it's the first step to a major zoning code revision that is very much needed and was a big recommendation coming out of the comprehensive plan in order to achieve a lot of what the comprehensive plan aims to. We need to look at our zoning districts and get them updated and probably more diverse. But that's kind of what this scope of work, it starts that process. They're going to review our existing code and any pain points within that existing code, and then look at the alignment between the existing code and the land use plan recommendations, and then also look at best practices in zoning overall, and then provide deliverables, an analysis memo and recommendations memo overall. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I would like to keep my initial description pretty brief. We kind of need your guys's blessing to move this before council.
Nicole, this is Jerry.
Yes.
Would that include that new idea of a form-based code in this?
I imagine they will be looking at that, probably not for the city overall, but in particular for the new downtown area and areas that you want more of a design focus and performance focus rather than use. But yes, they'll look at things like that and make recommendations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If not, Nicole is asking for a blessing or also a motion, I guess, for them to proceed.
This Jerry, I'll make a motion that we approve this or whatever we need to do and send it on to the city council.
This is Tony, I second.
Motion in a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, Nicole. All right. Next on the agenda is a joint work session that's planned with the Planning Commission and the council. The XNA overlay, master street plan, land use plan, scheduled for May 20th at 5:30. And then the Title 15 being tentative for Monday 6/7 or 6/14, or Tuesday 6/22, or Thursday 6/24 at 5:30.
So again, last meeting, we kind of proposed this idea of putting together the joint work sessions with Planning Commission and Council, and Title 15 was kind of brought into the mix. We feel that Title 15 is going to be a much more in-depth and broad conversation, so it probably warrants having a second session for that. And since we're proposing May 20th for the first session, we're probably looking at June for the second. And so those dates are kind of for your consideration and to gauge availability from this group. Is May 20th at 5:30. That's a Thursday evening. Will you all be available for that?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
good.
This Jerry, I think I will, but yes.
Okay. And then in general, Tuesday evenings are our typical meeting nights, and all but one a month is typically, taken by existing meetings. So we could look at a Thursday evening again at the end of June, or if we were wanting to do it earlier in June, there's some Monday evenings that might be possible. Do you all have preferences there?
Monday, it's hard for me on Mondays. So
Okay.
I would agree that Thursday would be a little better for me.
Okay, so then your guys' preference might be to look at June 24th, which is a Thursday. Okay. We will keep coordinating those efforts and make sure council is also available and kind of move forward. Bill, are you still on? Do you have any thing to add on those?
Oh, I'm still here. I was just going to add that these will be in-person meetings. These won't be by Zoom, and they'll probably be at the water department. But we'll get that information out.
The new one, Bill, right?
Yes, sir. They got a much larger room we have here.
Okay.
All right, Nicole, the only thing I would ask is that, over communicate. I know that, this is kind of second for a lot of us. And so the more over communication and meeting planner that you can send out, even though it's on the paper tonight, would be beneficial. I would just say.
Yeah, do you guys prefer that we send calendar invites or just multiple email reminders?
Calendar invite would be
Both.
my preference.
Both.
And I was going to say
Both.
both, yes.
Yeah, both. Yes.
Okay, just a reminder for any emails that go out to you all as a group, do not press reply all. So that calendar item, you may have the ability to reply all, so just don't do that as a planning body.
Amen.
Yeah.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
Not just etiquette, but FOIA. we can't communicate in a group outside of a public meeting. So
All right, and
okay.
then the mayor has forwarded a couple of the training sessions, and again, make sure that you take advantage of those. And then we have training this Thursday, I believe, from 4 to 6. Is that correct? Is that what you had up? Yeah.
That
So
is correct. And
this
I
has
do
been
not
on-
have a great count. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is one that's been on the radar for a while. I think we decided on this a month, maybe 5 weeks ago. So this will be from 4 to 6 this Thursday at the Centerton Utilities. And so I think you're looking for a count. Is that right, Nicole?
That's right.
I'm in right now.
I'm in.
I believe I can be there.
I'll
I
be there.
will not- This is Tony. I
I
will not
think I
be
can
here.
make it.
Yeah, I'll be in Jonesboro, so I will not be able to attend.
I was told there'd be Dairy Queen. No.
If you bring it, there will be, John.
John's out.
Oh,
There you go.
John
Look,
can't make it.
here's the-
this is Craig. I can't. So
That's wrong.
Highly recommend the new Blizzard from McDonald's. Or McFlurry, I'm sorry. You can't get a Blizzard at McDonald's.
You just have to go an hour early if you're going to the McDonald's here. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. All right. So do you
Okay,
have your
I missed John and Devin. Were you guys in or out?
I'm in.
Ma'am, I'll be there. Right.
Devin and John are both yeses.
No, I'm a no. I'll be out of town.
And Tony and Craig are no's. I think I got it.
All right. And of course, this is in person, so I'll say mask encouraged. I'm not sure that we have a mandatory, so just be conscious of that.
The instructor has requested masks to do this training in our community. He would prefer that everybody mask up
Okay.
and maintain distance if possible.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. Anything else, Nicole, from a staff?
I think that's it. I'm gonna do one more shout out for this training. The Arkansas Municipal League put on a really great series. They're not even an hour, I don't think. Most of them you can skip the first part because they just go over an overview of the legislative session. Especially the first and third. Those are really good. Reminders for us all. I listened to all of them and they were good reminders. So please, please plan to listen to those if you haven't already. And they're in links.
I watched
Oh,
the
go ahead.
first two. I think they said the password will expire on the 31st of May if you haven't watched them before that. Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They're not very long, but it's pretty informative. I watched the first two already this week.
All right. Just as a reminder, our next meeting is the 18th. Again, as a courtesy, make sure you give us a heads up. Two folks couldn't make it tonight. So just as a courtesy, the council meeting is 5/11. And there's a tech review the 27th. Anything else? Mr. Mayor, thanks for stepping in and taking a few roll calls for us. If there is nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That's Jerry. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of the week.
Good night.
Thanks, y'all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, everyone.